it's not like you are forced or like you really need to play bishop e3, but once you played bishop e3, it means that you are free to move your queen here on f3. All right, so that is why you play. That is why you are going to play bishop e3. So bishop e3, bishop e7, queen f3, a6. So it is still normal. Black castle, white castle, and then queen c7. So this position, there are like a thousand of games already in this kind of position. Like white has a lot of ways to deal with this kind of position. Sometimes you're playing king b1 first, just it's like kind of waiting move. But yeah, sometimes you are going to play g4 immediately, even though the king is still on the center. Like example in this game, like what Michael Tal played, he played g4. But of course, if before you're going to play g4, there are there are things that you need to consider here. Example, this is a good thing if you are playing this kind of setup when someone played the Sicilian, like f4, queen f3, and then g4. So like this. So now white play g4. So the first thing that you're going to consider here is after you play g4 is what if black captured your knight and play e5? So that is the first thing that you're going to consider. Because because if black doesn't capture, like if black doesn't play knight takes d4 and then e5, I think it would be easy for white now, because white will just play g5, and then if you want, you could just always continue playing h4. But in this position, black played knight takes d4, bishop takes d4, e5. Okay. So some you could, of course, you could play this move, rook takes d4. Oh,
Mark, I just put a link in the chat to actually a game I just played with Coach Brian a little while
oh
ago. If you
yeah.
don't mind, maybe going over that game as part of the lesson
Oh
after
yeah, yeah,
this.
sure, no problem.
After this.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. So white here rook takes d4. White could also play this one so that if, of course, you are going to assume that black is going to play e5 after he played knight takes d4. So after e5, maybe you could play rook to c4. But I think after I'm not so sure about this rook c4. Okay, like white could play rook c4. I am thinking about this move, bishop takes g4. What do you think about this bishop takes g4? Any thoughts about this bishop takes g4? If black, yeah, just try to do some counter attack, bishop takes g4. But the question is if bishop takes g4 will work.
Can you take the?
But
Never mind.
okay, so I think what I'm thinking here is after bishop takes g4, of course, if rook takes g7, bishop takes f3, I think black is already better here. So the like I'm thinking is this one, queen takes c4. I think like there's just queen takes c4. Okay, like queen takes c4, maybe you could take this. Queen takes g4, knight takes g4, because if queen takes c4, you will, I would say, queen takes g7.
Yeah.
And then now the like this one is hanging, and then this one c4 is hanging. Because even though he played queen g8, of course you're going to take this queen takes g8 and then followed by bishop takes c4. But of course, after queen takes g4, the move that you're going to consider is of course knight takes g4. Because if rook takes e7, knight takes e2. So here, who do you think is better here? I know this is the kind of complicated. It is very normal in like like especially in the night of this kind of um, similar possession. So here it is white has 6 pawns, whereas black has 7 pawns. But the rook is on the seventh round.
My
So
instincts say white is better,
yeah,
but I don't know.
yeah, yes, Corey. What do you think, Corey?
I was gonna say white is better because of the C file with the rook,
Oh, right.
and
Okay.
also you can get the G file with your other rook. So it seemed like your rooks are gonna be more active.
Yeah. So here in this kind of position, of course, it is a very not kind of easy to judge, like to tell this one is better. But of course, white is. I would say that white is clearly better here because of the place of the rook, or like because of this board with this rook. Especially the black king is still on castle. So here in this position, if you want, you could just capture this first. Because if you're going to capture this, rook takes b7, there's e takes e4. So I think you would just capture, and then rook takes b7. So here, after this, you played rook takes b7. Of course, this king cannot cannot castle yet. So what you need to do is maybe he's going to play move the bishop, like maybe bishop g5. But still, white still a better here because of this rook, and then later on this pawn e6 is better. All right, so now, so I think after just if white will play rook takes d4, I think black won't just play e5. Maybe black will just simply play knight d7 and then followed by b5 and then bishop b7. So now let's just go to the game. So after knight takes d4, white played bishop takes d4, black played e5. So now Michael Tal captured this one, f takes e5, and then d takes e5. So now let's just pause for a bit in this position. So as you can see that after d takes e5, white is kind of in danger now because this bishop is hanging on d4, and then the g4 pawn is hanging also. So now here, um, what do you think you are going to, like example, just think that this position, like you had this kind of position for white. What do you think you are going to do?
An option here?
What? What?
No,
Oh yeah, yeah. It
I
is
think
kind of
no, but I guess it doesn't work here, right? Because G5 takes.
g5. Yeah, okay. You could play g5, but
I guess it just doesn't work because he takes right on
yeah, 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 yeah,
D4. It
you're
takes
right.
G3.
So what? Of course. Wait a second. I'm just going back a bit. Of course, if you choose to capture this knight on d4, of course, like example, if you played bishop takes d4, you are going to you are going to calculate immediately this d5 because that is one of the reason why black played knight takes d4. So let's just go back. So here it's white. This is already a very old game, but yeah, but this is one of my one of my favorite game of Michael Town. White to play. Anyone? Like in this position, if you had this position for white, I think like the first move that you're going to calculate is g5, of course. Mm, Maybe this is the first move that you're going to calculate here, g5. Moving the bishop, I think, yeah, like moving the bishop, of course, you're going to calculate moving the bishop, but if you're going to move your bishop, you're going to see that there is bishop takes g4. But now here, um, white found a very, I would say, not like maybe after this move, his position will get better. But of course, after this move is very tricky for black after he played this move.
And you play Queen G3 here.
Yes, that's right. This is what Michael Tau played. Queen G3. Look at this one. So Queen G3 attacking this pawn on E5. This pawn on E5 cannot capture this bishop. Of course, this queen is hanging. And then now, if bishop takes G4, of course, there is bishop takes E5. So here, um, if if um if black let this position, yeah, like if black let white play bishop takes E5, I would say that white is already better here because now, of course, the threat will be maybe there's threat of bishop takes f6, and then this king is in trouble because even though he could castle here on the king side, but now the g file is kind of open, especially if white could attack this pawn. So after this queen g3, after this queen g3, black decided to capture this knight takes g4. All right. So bishop takes g4. There is bishop takes e5. So we are going also we are also going to consider this move bishop d6, so that now there is this move e takes d4. But here after bishop d but here after black will play bishop d6, I would say that yeah, you could just play um bishop e3 here. Bishop e3 here, just giving a pawn, just giving this pawn. So maybe black will play maybe bishop takes g4. So mm, I'm thinking of this bishop e2, like bishop takes e2, queen takes g7, but I think it is not so clear. Like this queen takes g7, but I think it is not so clear for this because there is always rook g. But but I would say here that there is like a really compensation now um for white, because even though white is down a pawn, but first is this king is still uncastled, and then now even though black could get this pawn, but if you just move your rook and then play h3, of course you will just get back this pawn. So Boris Gulko didn't play bishop d6. I think, like for me, in just my opinion, I think bishop d6 is much better than what happened, because what happened is he captured with the knight. Knight takes g4. He captured this, knight takes g4 here. Oops. He captures knight takes g4 here. So now it's white's move. So the the move after this knight takes g4, you are going to consider this knight d5, because now, of course, this d5 square is free. So, but you are not really forced to play knight d5, because maybe like later on you could always play knight d5. So here it's white's move. So what do you think white played?
Can't you just play H3 here?
h3. So what just happened? It is kind of similar like what happened. Michael Town just played bishop e2. So he just developed the bishop. Same thing like attacking this. So after this bishop e2, now um, white, if black tried to defend this g4, I think it won't do any good. Like h5. Now I think you could play something like e5, bishop e6. This is too much already. So after this bishop e2, black decided to play queen to h3. Bishop takes g4, e takes d4. So now, because um, I'm seeing this kind of, not the possession, but this kind of thing that both sides has some counter attack, but sometimes we falter to manage to find the right of course plan, but the most important thing in the middle game, in my opinion, like example in this kind of possession, is the decision. So decision making is very very important when it comes to when it comes to middle game, because sometimes there are position that you are confused. It's whether you're going to attack or you are just going to trade the pieces, right? So there are scenario like that. So that's why that's why reviewing a lot of middle game positions or like kind of thing, it will be very helpful. So here in this one, so if bishop takes c8, I would say that it's not, I think, a good idea. Okay, like bishop takes c8, of course, if bishop takes c8, you're going to consider just d takes c3 or just rook takes c3. So I don't think bishop takes c8 is not a good idea because, of course, this bishop is not yet developed. So I think you would just wait for this bishop to capture that bishop. So now it's white's move. So what do you think white did here? There are like a lot of options here. You could play rook takes d4, you could play e5. And also, by the way, like this position is already better for white. This position is white already has a clear advantage here. So, but the question is how we could just convert our advantage to a win, that is a very important one.
Knight d5 looks almost winning.
Yeah, knight d5 looks so yeah, like winning here. But of course, if you play knight d5 here, if you're going to play knight d5, you're going to calculate just queen takes a2.
But then maybe queen to e5.
Queen to e5. Yes, that is what happened. Okay, because of course, if you are like so greedy here, you can just play this because there's bishop g5 here, there's bishop g5 here, and then now you lose the game. Then rook d2, queen e1. So this is what happened. So after queen takes a2, white played queen to e5
Oh, I
because
guess it right.
yeah, because I think like in this position, Boris Gulko, I think he is forced to complicate the position because he doesn't have any choice. Because now, if he doesn't complicate, his position will be just hopeless. So now White played Queen E5. All right, White played Queen E5 here. So here after Queen E5, Black could play Bishop E6, but Black wants to protect this. Of course, after Queen E5, White is threatening Queen takes E7. So what Black wants here is to protect this E7 bishop with this queen. But of course, this queen is quite too far, so he's going to check first. King D2, Queen A5, D4, then Queen D8. So this is what happened. So now, finally, like the queen goes back to D8 to protect the E7. But even though the queen, even though in this position that the queen um, protects the e7, but still like the black's position is very passive. So here after queen d8, white decided to play rook hg1. So white still could is still continuing his initiative and attack on the king side. And then also the good thing about when I like example this position, of course, this king is tied up. It means that yeah, of course, this king cannot castle because after castle, this bishop on e7 is hanging. But here, black played f6. So black is trying to get rid of the queen, of course, so that black could castle. Right? So now he played f6. So um Boris Golko or like black thought that after f6 his position will be fine. But in after after a few moves like um I think like Boris Golko didn't notice this kind of plan, especially after Michael Tal played rook rook hg, and then black played f6. So white to move. I would say that white to play and win. This one is kind of not really very deep, but of course, yeah, you need time for this, especially. Yes, was that Chaitanya? Yes.
Shop H5. I mean,
Okay, so I will play King F8.
uh,
Bishop H5, King F8.
oh,
Okay, because here, of course, if G6, there is knight takes F6, right? Knight takes F6, maybe King F8, and then Rook F8. Like this is already a win for white. But white won't play G6. He will play King F8. Right? Let's just go back again. That's why he's Michael Bow. Any idea? Oh, Jeff?
Well, I'm looking at two candidate night moves.
Yeah? Okay.
One of them being knight to c7 check.
Okay, knight C7, and then what else?
Well, I
Okay.
imagine that would force the king to move.
Yeah. Right. So I think like after knight C7, if you check here, I think it is a smart choose to for black to move his king on F8, because if black plays to the king F7, then his F6 is there. So king F8,
Yeah. Well, and then knight to
E6.
e6 check.
Okay, so now I'm going to take bishop takes E6, and then queen takes E6, right?
Right.
Yeah. But I think in this position, I don't think that. Yeah, like maybe white is. It is not so sure in this position because here after this, black will take this pawn and then maybe play queen e7, try to trade the queen. So I don't think that white will play this kind of match
Yeah.
because black could just trade it. So
How about knight takes f6?
yeah, this is your thinking. Okay, so knight takes f6. Okay, so knight takes
Went down to 0.
knight takes. I will take king takes f6,
Queen h5,
king f8,
queen h6.
go back.
I was looking at bishop h5. Oh,
That
wait
you
a sec.
d7.
For some reason, I thought the king wasn't in front of the rook. I don't know why I thought that.
But oh yeah. Okay, so
That's a
black
draw.
play
Yeah.
king f7. Yes, like I think after king 8, I think I think white needs to. Yeah, maybe white could do something, but I don't see any good attack here besides queen h5
I
because
was,
if the king, if you let this king
yeah,
go up here to d7, white will be in danger. Yes.
yeah, I miscalculated.
Yeah, yeah. But that is a good calculation though. All right. So, all right here. So what happened here is okay. This is okay. So what happened in this position is white played bishop h5. Like Chatanya is correct. So bishop h5. Now, as I said, black cannot play g6 because there's knight f6 and then rook f1. The attack is too much. And then now, black played king f8. So one of the logical moves that we're going to think here is queen g3, attack this pawn, and then whenever play g6, maybe bishop takes g6, or after queen g3, black could play rook g. So um, so now here, okay. So that's why in the middle game, looking for candidate moves is of course one still the best. Like um, that is a very popular team how to how how to do in the middle game, like in the where it published in the thing like of a grandmaster. So after this king f8, white played this is this is what about Michael Tao. Rook takes g7.
I was looking at that, but I didn't see that it worked.
Yeah, like how? Yeah, that is why if you see something, I think it is always better to continue. You could
Right.
just stop your analysis when you are like when you are really sure that it's nothing. But if it's like because sometimes we are not considering that kind of move because we are just thinking, oh, there is nothing attack, but the thing is we don't expand more our calculation. Yes, Chaitanya?
Okay. Now I'm starting to see some things.
Yeah, rook takes g7. What?
This position like winning for white.
Rook takes g7. Let's see. White played rook takes g7. So I think there are just two options here for black. It's either he's going to capture the rook or he's going to capture the queen. So first is let's try if he captured with the king. With the rook. King takes g7. What are you going to do?
Rook G1.
Yeah, of course. That is a logical move. Rook g1. Now there are two squares. King h6. Oh, I think this will. I think this will get checkmated, of course. Like
Yeah,
queen
Queen
f4, king h5. Yeah, yeah. This one will get checkmated for sure. So now he will play king f8.
Wait, what's the checkmate? I just want to see the checkmate.
Checkmate. Oh, checkmate. Okay.
King
Let's
H6, Queen
let's
F4,
find
King takes
queen
bishop.
f4. Check takes, and then now what's next? How you could checkmate this one?
Uh, yeah, I didn't see it.
Okay, let's see how to checkmate this one.
I know.
Okay, yes. Jack.
Um, Queen F3.
Queen f3, and then I will play king h6. King
No,
h6.
the bishop on C8 is so annoying. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Because if there's no bishop, just checkmate. But of course, for sure, this one should be checkmate. Like you just need to find the right one. What is the best move here for white? Okay, who raised? Oh, Japan. Okay. Okay, it's okay.
Queen G3.
Yeah. Okay. Wait, Chaitanya. What what move are you going to play here?
In this position,
This position.
Oh, that's
Need to be careful because remember, black has a lot of pieces. If you just miss, if if your attack fails here, of course you're going to lose here.
Queen F4 again.
Queen F4 again? King H5 again?
Then, the bishop on C8.
Yes. So remember, in this kind of position, if you don't see any direct checkmate, like example, I think you're looking like Queen F3, and then whenever they played King H6, you are trying to find a way how your Queen on F3 goes to H4. So if you don't find anything, maybe even though it's not forced, but of course you are sure that black cannot defend. All right. So even though that you're going to move without check here, but of course you need to make sure that black doesn't have any defense or black doesn't have any counter.
Yeah, I was looking at Queen F3 and Queen G3.
Yes, right. Queen F3, King H6, just simply like this.
And then if F5, you take the bishop with the knight
Yeah.
first.
Yeah, right. So the best, I think, there's okay. Bishop takes b4 because that is the only check. Because here, if you try to prevent h4, f5, of course there is check. No, a check here, knight f4, and then queen h6 checkmate.
Oh, that too. Okay.
Yeah, right. So here, after bishop takes b4, of course you don't want to capture because you will you are going to use this knight to checkmate this king. So the best square, I would say that, yeah, just maybe simply king d1. Because the only piece that you could check your king is this bishop, and then you like it if black played bishop g4, because this is the piece that is very annoying in this position. All right, so
Why can't you capture the bishop too? Doesn't that also lead to
this one.
checkmate? Yeah.
Okay, so here, what did I do? Like maybe I could play queen a5.
Oh, I see.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Of course,
well, you still win a queen, I guess.
still open like queen h4, queen here, and then you could take, like
Well, okay, yeah, I see.
Already won.
yeah, it's
You
already
take
won.
the queen, then you take the rook.
Yeah.
Okay.
So anyway, so it means that king h6 doesn't work. So now he will play king f8. So of course here this one is much easier.
Queen G3.
Yes, queen g3, of course, threatening checkmate on g7. So the only move that I I could see here is this move, bishop takes b4 again, and then defend, like maybe bishop takes b4, and then defend queen d7. That is the only move that I could see. So here in this position, now you could just simply take, and then even though black is up by exchange, but white's position is too much because as you could see, four of the pieces are very active compared to the black's pieces. All right, so I think here, because even though you queen e7, knight d5, this position is already too much for it. So that's why here after rook takes g7. So I think this is the move that Boris Gulko missed. Rook takes g7. I know this is like especially when you're playing in the tournament and then it's like over the board. Of course, this kind of move is very hard to find. Um, in my experience, like the hardest uh, move or like possible move is hard to find is like the queen sacrifice, because of course you're not going to let, or like example in this position, you are not going to think why you're going to give your queen. Like you could just simply move like queen to g3, queen f4, and then it doesn't need. So here, okay, rook takes g7. So now here f takes e5. So now it makes
Rook check.
yes, rook f7, of course. This will be the move. And then now the king, if black king goes on g8, they're like a checkmate three moves. Yeah, three moves, three or four moves, of course.
Knight,
Check
knight
out yet?
Knight takes e7.
Okay. Why not? Why not rook g1?
Because then you can play bishop bishop g5.
Very good. So of course you don't want to play. There's bishop g5, so you will take this first. Queen e7, and then now rook g1. A very nice, a very nice, a very nice attacking pattern here. So bishop g4 doesn't work with this. So that's why king g8 doesn't work. So now black played king e8. So after this rook takes g7 and then f takes e5, it is all forcing move. And then after black captured the queen on e5, it is already lost. But of course, for white, you need to find the right checks. So king e8, yes, Chaitanya.
Can you play rook takes e7?
King f8,
Uh, rook f1,
king g8, it is all forced.
and then uh,
bishop f7.
then you can play
Checkmate in two. Checkmate in two in that position.
knight f6.
King f8, you could still see the position. Rook takes e7, king f8, rook f1, king g8, knight f6. So the only square is king f8 again. Checkmate in one.
Uh, knight g no.
No, it's not. Okay, so here in this one, all right. Yes, Karish.
Instead of checking on f6 with the knight, can't you just check with the bishop on f7?
So if you oh if you played bishop f7, I will just maybe move my king, like maybe king g7. So there are like forced checkmate here. So check king f8, rook f1, that is correct. Knight king g8, knight f6, which is correct. And then now a very good checkmate pattern here, rook f7, right? All right. So in this game, so I think like what I just here, uh black or like Boris Gulko missed this rook takes g7, and then I kind of hard to believe that after like example in this position after just this rook g7, I would say that black is already lost. Like black cannot like here in this position, black looks fine. Even though maybe white white is better because of the black king is in f8, and then the pieces are very passive. But I didn't expect that after this rook takes g7, black cannot do anything. All right, um, so just remember that when it comes to middle game, you need to be creative. You need to be creative in a sense that you are going to check most of the possible kind of attacks, right? Because sometimes we are missing some attacking move, especially like example of this one. So if you want to, I would suggest that if you want to improve your this kind of move like middle game, just find some problems that which is you think that it is very hard for you, very hard in your level, and then try to do it maybe even like maybe two problems or like three problems, because that is what like example in my like example me when I was young. I used to solve very hard problems. Back then, there is informator, and then at the back of the informator book, that there is a very hard problem there. Like it doesn't matter if it's like middle game or end game. So because in that way you are going to strive, or like you are going really to force yourself to find something, right? So okay, so I think for now, and we are going to check like what Evan showed. Yeah, like give the link earlier. Evan, are you there, Evan?
I'm here.
Yeah, yeah, okay. So I think we're going to check the game. Wait a second. Uh, wait a second. I'm going to stop this screen. So I'm going to check the game first. I'm going to put the screen. Um, all right. Okay. So it doesn't need the. All right. So I don't just log in again. Okay. So now this is the game of Evan and Brian. This is
And
Brian.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So Evan is white. Oh, Nidorf. All right. Okay. So Nidorf a6 bishop g5. Okay. So e6 f4 queen b6. So this is one of the well for me it is one of the craziest line in Nidorf. Oh, like I don't know. Like I will. I know the English attack is very complicated or very complex, but for me this is more complex because sometimes there is like some moves that I don't understand with this. Okay, so Queen B6. So of course this is like this is what we call the poison pawn. So black is playing Queen B6 and capturing this pawn. So usually white is giving this pawn that is why a poison pawn, but in return white has some attack on the center or on the king side. But here Evan didn't, of course, didn't want to get this pawn, so he played knight d3. So there is also a move here, a3. This is also possible. Like this a3 move is also possible.
I fell for
So of
this.
course, this one queen takes b2 is a trap. Of course, you cannot take this one because there's knight a4 and then now your queen is trapped. But of course, you are not hoping that your opponent will play queen b2. But this is also a possibility. So now white played knight to b3, knight c6, queen d2. Of course, it's normal. Castle b5. So so here in this position, white played a3. So I think here in this because after you're going to after like example like Evan play a3 here, there is b4 and then now your queen side is kind of open. So I think I would just maybe play something bishop d3 first. Yeah, bishop d3. Okay, because if you play b4, you will just simply move the knight. I don't see. Right? And then also like the logical way here to protect this e4 is bishop d3. So anyway, white played a3, bishop b7, and then ooh, bishop takes b5. All right, so this is a very typical in this, especially in the bishop g5 line, that white is sacrificing a piece, this b5 pawn, of course, but in return you will get three pawns. But you need to make sure that if you're going to sacrifice here on b5, you need to make sure that you could also get this d6 pawn. All right. So bishop takes b5, a takes b5. Oh, and then he captured this. Okay. I think, yeah, like I think Evan does. Okay. Okay. So white captured this knight on f6 because I think Evan is thinking that if he capture this one, let's say black played queen b6, or like maybe yeah like queen b6
Queen
or like
B8 I
f8,
would probably play.
queen b8, because after queen b8 white cannot just capture this pawn immediately because of course the e4 pawn is hanging. All right, so that's why he played knight takes b5, bishop takes f6. So bishop takes f6 first, this draw, right? Okay, draw, Knight takes b5, queen b8. Now you capture this. Knight takes d6. Takes. Okay, so now this kind of endgame is very good. I will say that it is very good to study or like to review. So as you can see here, wait a second. Okay, bye, John. So in this kind of position, um, example you're playing white. Of course, the uh, what are you going to consider here is you are down a piece, but you had a lot of pawns. And also in this position, that this bishop on b7 is not doing good. And then also your the white knight on b3 could always jump here on c5 whenever this knight on c6 move. Because if the knight moves attacking this e4, but there is always knight c5. So here king e7, rook d1. Okay, so now after this rook d1, now there is rook h3. So um, what I'm thinking here is not it's not playing rook d1. Thinking like rook d3, but the problem here after rook d3, of course, black could play rook d8, right? Like rook d8, because sometimes you don't want to trade your rook in this position, but I think you'll be not on time to do it because after rook d8, if you try to maybe move like not to trade, like maybe okay, let's say rook h3, there is knight d4 here. So I think black is kind of better here because as long as this bishop could yeah, like as long this diagonal is open for this bishop, I would say that black has already won. Okay, so let's
Yeah, I
see.
should have. So you're essentially saying the sacrifice line was probably not 3 pawns, correct?
Yeah, but yeah, like
So like, what's a good
of course,
alternative?
like example in this position, of course, it is really not. What I mean is, it is interesting, but of course, you don't really need to sacrifice in this position. But this one is interesting. So now here you captured king e7, rook d1, rook d8. So now you captured, and then here. So this is already came for the end game. So as I said, rook, no, a piece, a bishop for 3 pawns, and then black has a double pawn. But of course, this bishop is very now strong, right? So I think in this one, white could play knight to c5 or knight to d2. So Evan decided to play knight c5. So of course, black doesn't want to trade. So the idea here for black is to play bishop c6 and then after that trade the knight. Because once you could trade this knight, now this pawn and this pawn is weak. So after bishop c6, I think white needs to play king d2. So that if black played knight b7, you takes, and then now you are on time to protect the e4 pawn. But yeah, like but still, of course, I would still, of course, prefer black. So anyway, but it is not so easy. So knight d7 takes king d3. All right. So here, what is the plan now here? So what? Okay. So
My
in,
plan was just to blockade the pawns, but
yeah, but let me tell you something. This is hard. This is a very hard one. How to yeah, like a very hard. This kind of position is very hard for black because you know already the white's plan is to do some pawn storm on the queen side. Like doesn't matter if you move your king on d7 or d6, but white's plan is just play b4, c4, a4. So for black, of course, you need to find a way how you could maybe not stop that one, but of course you need to do something. So what happened here is Brian played king d6 before bishop c6. Oh yes, he left this one. All right. Okay. Yeah. I think like Brian's way he played is good. he blocked the a pawn, which is good because of course if you let like these three pawns could push, it will be very dangerous. So here, okay, king d6. Now after king d6, white played b4. All right, okay, stopping this king c5. Yeah, this is hard. Um, I think like in this position, the only chance for black is to play f5. That is the only chance. Play f5 and get the g2, and then yeah, because you need to open up the position here. You need to open up the position, but I think like because here you what they call this, because as I said earlier, like you need to open up the position, otherwise like this queen side pawn. So I'm thinking of f5. So now he's going to capture. Okay, like although black could white could also play e5, but I think it doesn't do any good. So here you captured, and then maybe you capture this, or you
I didn't
or
like that because I wanted to keep as many pawns as possible.
yes, that is like that is a good one. You want to keep the pawns, but the thing is, you need to open up the possession because of your king. You need to create something that, yeah, like you need to create. Yeah, like it is hard. It is hard. So f5, e5 doesn't work because yeah, like e5 it just white could play g3 or like white could play f5. So okay, let's see what happened. Bishop e6, c4, bishop e4, king d4. So now played e5. Good. Takes. King to c3. All right. Okay.
I looked at this and I think I had some winning chances, but it was
So
hard.
yeah. So here I would say that I think you had no chances here.
So Evan made a mistake in that last series of moves.
Mm, Wait a second. So here b4, bishop c6, c4, bishop a4. So I think here king d4 it is kind of not necessary already. Um,
Right.
I would say here that I think what like I think like white could just simply play king c3 here. Yeah, white could just simply play king c3 here.
And how is it different if D4 is played now than before? Is it
Oh,
because
like here because the
I
idea
mean
of this
D5, I mean.
yeah okay. Oh, what? I'm sorry.
What's the
d5.
difference between like D5 played with the king on C3 versus D5 played with the king on D4? Is it
Oh,
because white doesn't have to undouble the black pawns or something?
um uh because in this kind of position, this move is kind of because of course, if you're white here, you don't sometimes you don't want to play. Oh, this time okay. You don't want to play king d4 because of this e5. Here e5. If you takes, and then now this e4 pawn could be a problem.
Okay, so it's different
Think-
because
Yeah.
white has the maybe F5 advance or something.
Yes, you're right. But I
Okay.
think like in this position, after this king d6, um, after this king d6, I yeah, this is hard. So white could play b4, or also of course white could also play c4 here in this position, like this c4. But but I think Brian found the right way to deal with these three pawns, which is bishop c6. I think this is a very good one. So um, I think like Evan didn't just make a big mistake, but the thing is, you just find the right way to defend, like this bishop c6 and followed by bishop e4. So I don't think any good I like yeah any any plan here for white that he could push through, or like he could do something in this endgame, because because what happened is king d4. Okay, let's just continue what happened. So takes, and then king c3, king to c6. Right. Okay, good. And then now I would say that the pawns now are already fixed. And then here, okay, let's just go back. So I think like the mistake is just simply king d4, right? Because after king d4 there is this e5. Because here g3. So now white has now some chances now. But it is very hard because okay, the first thing that you're going to attack here is this e4 pawn. But it is not so easy because even though if you are going to put your bishop here on f3, white will just simply play king d2. So this one is not. This one is not. Okay. Okay. So this game is very interesting. Like what Evan played, like the sacrifice, like the bishop takes b5. Yeah. It is very interesting. It is very interesting. And then also Brian, it's very good that you found on the last, like yeah, like example in this one, you found this idea like bishop c6, bishop a4. Yeah. All right. Okay.
Thanks,
So
Mark.
thank you everyone. So thank you everyone. So yeah. So I'm going to see you. I don't know. Yeah, like next week. Let's see next week. Okay, Evan, do you have something to? Yes, Corey.
Just saying thank you. That was real good. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, thank you. Yeah,
Thank you very much.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Like, I think the tiles game is unbelievable. The rook takes g7. Oof.
Very interesting.
Yeah, yeah. All right. Okay, Evan. Thank you. See you.
Bye,
Thank you,
everybody.
everyone.
All right. Okay. Bye. Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
All right, everyone. That's a lesson with Grandmaster Mark Paragua. I'm gonna figure out who I'm gonna raid now. Thank you all for watching. Definitely appreciate that. And yeah, let's see who is gonna get the honorable raid. I raided um I'm gonna raid Thirsty Monster.
All right,
He's
jeez,
really
hot
nice
dogs.
kid,
Yeah, he
good
is.
streamer. Definitely the type of person to potentially raid me back one day. And
Where did I
but
take that
he
pawn?
is
Yeah,
he's
I don't know.
13th server raid. So
You know, maybe